So let's just start by welcoming everyone to this workshop this morning, the first in our series of 4 for our digital marketing bootcamp run by our great friend, Henry Bramwell. I've been to many of these workshops, not only Henry's, but just online and all kinds of marketing workshops, digital marketing workshops. And there's never been a time that I haven't learned many things at every workshop. So I think it's going to be really eye-opening for a lot of you and certainly for myself. So I want to welcome you for coming. And Henry, you're on.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity. One of the challenges that I've experienced, talking to fellow small business owners and entrepreneurs and people starting their own business, is kind of wrapping their arm around, having a digital presence and marketing on the web, and it becomes frustrating for me because I want to be able to help small businesses who probably need the help the most, but have the smallest budget to be able to do something or even hire someone like me to help them. So having this opportunity to do this for 4 weeks, I think hopefully we can help those who are experiencing challenges getting their website going, understanding what their website should do, and what are the best practices, for building and maintaining a website. So today we're going to be talking about the website itself, talking about your website, best practices, how should your website be set up, what should it do, content, we'll even talk about different options for building your own website, like using WordPress or Wix and things like that. And then next week, we listed, I believe, Google My Business was the topic. We're gonna broaden that a little bit more to local search, include local search into your Google My Business, and talk a little bit more about what you can do on little or no budget to promote your website using local search with Google My Business. And then the third week, we'll talk about social media. And then the final week, I'll show you some tools that you can use to kind of audit your website, audit keywords, get a better understanding of what people are looking for, trends in search, different things like that. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. And we are going to go in and just kind of start going over some key points. So once again, we want to thank Capital One for their support. And excuse me 1 second here. Okay, so I set up a hashtag in Twitter, SBDC Bootcamp. Okay, hashtag that. So I've already put up some articles. There's a link to the presentation, and I put up some articles and things that we're going to talk about today, so that you can go in and read this on your own. Back in the day, I started my business before there was the internet. So I started my business in 1992. And I was an annual report designer, and I guess in the mid to late 90s, this internet thing started coming about, and people started wanting, web pages. They wanted to put their brochure online, and then they would expect the phone to ring off the hook. And we got involved with that right from the get-go. We started putting brochures online, and told everyone to brace themselves that the phones are going to ring off the hook, and that didn't quite happen. So we all learned, it was a learning curve. There was no history to this thing to guide us and teach us, how past performance and best practices or anything like that. We had to figure it out and struggle and learn as we go. So over the years, we learned a little bit more about what makes a good website. What are the things you should do to make your website more appealing and be more of a lead capture tool and things like that. So, over time, we've kind of taught ourselves. And now, now there's a lot more. There's a lot of resources out there. And there are online tools like lynda.com if you want to learn something very specific, for example, like how to build a Wix website or how to build a WordPress website. Lynda.com is a great resource for online tutorials and things like that. So if you go to Twitter, SBDC Bootcamp, I've already put up a couple articles up there, and I'll continue to do that. But before we start really getting into it, I'd just like to share some key statistics that kind of, I find that are very interesting. So more content was created in the last 2 years than the previous 5,000 years of humanity. We are creating a tremendous amount of content every day, whether it's a blog, it's a YouTube video, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's LinkedIn. We are just generating so much content every day. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. 82% of people searching on their phone use their phone to help them make a decision about an in-store purchase. So people are Googling things on their phone. Where can I find a dry cleaner near me? Or where can I just did this yesterday. I needed a part for something I was working on at home. So I just Googled it. I found out that the Ace Hardware up in Rocky Point had it in stock, and I could either order it or I went and picked it up. So I went and picked it up. So we use that phone to do a lot of searches and things like that. And our smartphones are very, very powerful. There's more computing power in our smartphone used just to do a single Google search than all the existing NASA computers used to land a man on the moon. Like that to me is like mind-boggling. Like that's amazing that smartphone has so much power, and we kind of live on our phones. And the average American has access to more than 10 connected devices in their household. So, I mean, between your smart TV, your iPads, your laptops, your phones, your Google Assistant, your Alexa, all these devices. My son for Christmas actually gave me a crock pot. It's a smart crock pot. It's Wi-Fi connected. Like, it kind of blew my mind. It's like, so I can just through an app, turn it on or turn it down or do anything like that. So even my crock pot is like Wi-Fi connected. So that's a connected device. So we can use these devices to filter out the noise. We can filter out ads and spam and different things like that. And we've gone from being exposed to about 500 ads a day to almost 5,000 ads a day. So we are constantly bombarded with messaging everywhere we go. It's just become such a cluttered, place, the internet, that we are just bombarded with offers and ads and all sorts of different things. And it becomes very difficult to reach consumers with all of this going on. And it becomes a big challenge. And really, it all goes back to your website. It's just having a strong, robust website that speaks to your audience and answers their questions, and it can be found by the search engines. So that becomes very important. 30% of internet users are using ad blocking software now. So that becomes a challenge, that if you want to be an advertiser, and you want to advertise on different websites and do things like that, people can block those ads. So that becomes a challenge. You do it in your life. I mean, we block robocalls and spam calls on our phone. We can skip through commercials now. We have commercial-free TV. You can subscribe, commercial-free TV. There's all sorts of things you can proactively do to block being advertised to, and that becomes a challenge to a business person trying to get the word out there. So this has been a big shift in how people advertise and how they get their message out. And that is going from what we call a outbound marketing approach to an inbound marketing approach. The outbound marketing approach is the old-fashioned way of doing things. Okay, you used to run an ad in the paper. You would run an ad in the paper, or you would do a postcard, or run a spot on radio, and you would just cast this very wide net, and you would hope that you would reach enough people that a certain percentage would respond. You weren't necessarily reaching the right people; you were reaching everyone, and you were just hoping that you would hit the right person at the right time, and that becomes very difficult to do. So, and it didn't provide you really with an opportunity to educate. Educate your audience. So now we've kind of shifted to a different way of marketing, and that's called inbound marketing. And that's where the communication is interactive. It's two-way. I mean, think about it with your social media, right? People can engage with you, and you can have a back and forth. On your website, there's chat windows now on your website. People can fill out a form. People can respond to different things like that. So it's really become a two-way communication. And what happens is people don't wait for the Sunday paper to come anymore, right? They need something. What do? They Google it, right? So yesterday I needed a part. So what do? I didn't say, oh, shoot, I didn't get the paper today. I don't see if there's a sale for this. No, I Google it. I look, I find it, find this part near me, right? And I found, here it is. I could compare pricing if I wanted to, but it wasn't really important to me. I needed the part, and I found a place to go. And in this case, I didn't really even have to go to their website. I just saw that right on the Google search page, they said Ace Hardware in Rocky Point has it, and here it is. So I just went and got it. So that's how we do things now. We do a search. We look for what a product or a service we're looking for. We proactively do that. We may do that at 1 o'clock in the morning. We may do it on a Sunday night. It's whenever we need something. And when we find these search results on Google, we look at these results and we see, is this the closest match? Is this what I think is going to be the right thing? We kind of make a guess, and we click on that Google link on the search result, and we go to a website, and we may go, no, I don't like this website. It's too confusing. I don't see it. I don't know. And you click off it, and you go and you'll do another search. 60% of people doing a Google search will do a new search before they'll go to page 2 of search results. So think about that. So if someone's searching for you and you don't come up on page 1, your chances of being found are very slim. So someone will just do a new search, and they'll look. So with this inbound marketing now, there's a link. They click on it. They go to your site. Now what? Now what? Like, they're on your site. What? What are we going to do? Well, we need to understand that there's different buying cycles. That if you're an e-commerce site, well, then of course the sales cycle is almost instant. They come to your site, they see what they're looking for, they buy it on your website, and they leave. But for other people, that sales cycle could be much longer. And like for me, that sales cycle could be months. So what we want to do is we want to provide valuable information to help educate our people that come to our website. And we also want to nurture them by maybe getting some information on a landing page and being able to communicate back to them. Like maybe they would sign up for a white paper or a tip sheet or a checklist of the 10 things you need to know about building a website. So we want to engage them in some way and try to get some contact information from them, because we understand that they may not be ready to buy. We call that like a top of funnel, meaning that they're just, right now they're in the research part. And when they're in that part, there's really no loyalty. People will go anywhere. So that's the bad news. There's really very little loyalty on the web. But the good news is there's very little loyalty on the web. So there is a chance that someone could go to a website, not see what they're looking for, go back to Google and find you. So that gives us an opportunity, to try to get someone to come to our website and somehow nurture them until they're ready to make the purchase. And that's really what inbound marketing is. It's they do a search, they find you, they go to your website. Now, what are you going to do to bring them along until they're ready to make the purchasing decision? And you can interchange the word marketing with education. You really need to provide value and resources. And it's that type of content that Google is going to see on your website and say, wow, you're updating your website frequently. It's very educational. It's very informative. It has, images and maybe it's videos and things like that. So guess what? When someone asks a question, where can I find a dry cleaner near me? We're going to recommend you guys. So, it's very important that you understand that when it comes to a website, there's never a scenario that I built it, I'm done, now let's wait for the phone to ring. Once you launch your website, that's the beginning, that's not the end. So there's one key takeaway from today that I want you to understand, and that is that your website is a billboard going by at 60 miles an hour, okay? You got to capture them quickly. They come to your site, they're going to make a pretty quick decision. Okay, is this for me? Is it not for me? Can I find what I'm looking for? Is it too confusing? Are they sending me to a splash page where they're depriving me of the opportunity to find what I'm looking for. Are they laying things out very clearly? Can I find out what I need? Okay, so it's a billboard. You understand, when they get to your website, that's it. You've got them. Now what you got to do is give them what they're looking for. Okay, it's not about entertaining them at that point. It's about giving them what they're looking for. So what defines a good small business website? So I read a quote somewhere, and I may not get it right, but someone was talking about playing golf, and they said there's many ways of being able to put a golf ball in the hole, but there's a million ways not to do it. And it's the same thing with a website. Look, we're all trying to struggle to make this right, and we're all dealing with external influences that hinder our ability to really do this and spend a lot of time doing it, even on my own end. So we may have budget issues, we may have time issues. It becomes a challenge for us to really devote the necessary time to making a good website. But that's okay. The key to this thing is not to be able to deliver the Mona Lisa and just do that. The key is to get something up there, get your website going, get it started, and then refine it. Okay. And then just continually refine it. It's a process. Okay. So it's not about hitting the home run right at your first at bat. It's about just having good at bats every time. I'm using a baseball analogy. Sorry about that. But it's just about doing a lot of little things right over time. Okay. And just focusing and making your website part of your weekly, things that you need to do, that you'll need to spend a little bit of time each week on your website. I deal with a lot of clients. As a matter of fact, I'm going to meet one right after I'm done here, to update their website. And I looked at their website, and their website hasn't been updated in 11 years. And there's broken links, there's images that are missing. And, you're probably better off not having that page up there than showing like outdated information, links that don't work, images that aren't linked up anymore. Because what that tells someone coming to your website is that's kind of like a declaration of neglect. Okay, so you're better off in not even having that. So for those starting out that maybe have a very, very small budget, Google My Business offers a free little website that you can actually set up in your Google My Business account. And maybe we could talk about that next week when we talk about Google My Business. So if you're really on a really, really small budget, you need to get something going, Google does offer that. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but you know what? I saw someone that built one, and they asked me to let me know what I thought about it, and I thought it did a pretty good job, all things considered. So this is the one question that we always need to be focusing on when we're doing our website. This is what we always have to keep top of mind. What does my website need to do in order for it to be successful? What do we need our website to do? Okay, what is the purpose of our website, and what does it need to do? We need to keep that in mind all while we're planning and trying to figure out, how we should do this website. This is the most important question. And you would be surprised. I ask this question a lot of times with clients right off the bat, and they'll have a committee, like a website committee, and I'll ask this question and I'll get 5 different answers. And it's really important that everyone in your organization is on board with what is this website supposed to do? What are our expectations? Okay, what do we hope will happen? Because you need to, especially if you're paying someone to do your website, you need to convey that so that you really get what you're paying for. So it's very important that you ask yourself that question. So the first thing you need to do is, when you're talking about your website is, keep the noise down. People are coming there, they're looking for information. Okay. You don't have to be shouting in a megaphone at that point. They're on your website. They're there. You got them. Let them in the front door. Okay. Don't prevent them from finding what they're looking for. Okay. Do not, splash pages and different things. Give them what they're looking for right away. So some of the characteristics of a good website, and this one's really important, is to have a tagline that really clearly identifies what you do. And that needs to be up at the top by your logo. Okay, so many times you'll see a website and you go, what is this website about? Because when someone comes to your website, once again, couple seconds, they're going to look at it and say, is this for me? Is it not for me? Later, I'm gone. Okay, I'll do a new search. There's plenty of other people out there. Okay, so you got to have a tagline that clearly identifies what you do. Okay, so that people understand exactly what this website's about. So you want to be consistent with your design and your navigation on all pages because you want the website to be comfortable. You want people to feel comfortable using it. Okay, you don't want them to have to guess, and you don't want to sacrifice the functionality of a website at the expense of trying to make something pretty. Okay, we're going to talk about that form versus function. Okay, that's very important with a website, is that you really need to make sure your website is functional. Okay, and when you're on this and someone's looking at your website on this, it's got to be all functional. So it's very, very important that you come up with a clean, consistent navigation, and that your information is clearly presented within your navigation, and that you really think about like what's important and what's not important. So for example, I just did an audit for a new client, and they said, take a look at my website, and they had all their services and their about up in the top navigation, and they had up in the top navigation, that main navigation, they had careers. And I said, are you really pushing to hire people? And they said, no, but we just, think it's a good thing to have careers, that if people want to apply, for a position. And I said, absolutely. But does it belong in the top navigation where that's prime real estate? Like maybe careers should be down in the footer. Okay. So you want to think about what's important and what's important to your user. What are they going to be looking for? So when it comes to things like your privacy policy or your terms of use and things like that, well, that's information you have to have on the website, but that's not really the nuts and bolts of what people are looking for. They're looking for, what do you do? Who are you? And why should I use you? Right? Those are the things that really need to be in that navigation. And you want to prioritize that information. And a lot of times you'll have content. You want to make sure that it's arranged in a way that it's very easy for someone to read. So you may just put a short little chunk of information, a little piece of content, just to draw the user in so they can read it, they can understand it really quickly. Oh, this is what you're talking about in terms of your service. And then there can be a read more link that if you really need to do a deep dive and get more into the specifics, you can read more. You don't want to plaster them with the whole, 600, 800 words on a page. You want to break it up. And every page should have a footer at the bottom. Once again, especially now when people are scrolling because they're doing it on a smartphone, they may get down at the bottom of the page. So you might need links down at the bottom as well. You're always going to focus on your keywords on the pages, and you really want to think about what are those words that people are going to use to search for you. What are those keywords? Okay, not the industry jargon per se that you might use, but what are the keywords that you think people are going to use? And we'll cover some of those. How do you find those keywords in week 4? So and then this one's like a pet peeve of mine. Easy to find contact information. Like that one to me, it's like I don't want to have to like dive in deep to try to find your phone number. I'm kind of old school. I like to pick up the phone and call. So I like to see that phone number right on the website. Younger people tend to fill out forms. The millennials seem to fill out forms and they submit forms. I get it, but there's nothing like having your phone number really, really, in a prominent position that people can, if they want to just pick up the phone and call you, they can. And then a good website has a way to gather user data. So whether we have a form submission, people are submitting a form, we're looking at Google Analytics so that we can understand the traffic. We need to understand who's coming to our website. So we want to be able to gather data so that we can market to people at a later date. All right, so this is all about the user experience, like when people come to your website, okay? We want to make sure that that user experience is productive, okay? That the people are finding what they're looking for, and it's very easy to use. It's pleasing on the eye, and it works on all sorts of different devices, whether it's a mobile phone, a laptop computer, just very, very easy to use. So one of the most important things you need to make sure, especially now, is your website ADA compliant? Okay, we now have the Americans with Disability Act that requires your website to provide equal access to individuals with visual and mobility disabilities. Okay, this applies to every website that's on the internet. Okay, now what's happening now is you're getting lawyers that are going out and looking at websites and seeing whether or not your website complies with these ADA, Americans with Disability guidelines. And they're finding individuals with a disability that maybe are having trouble accessing this. And a lot of businesses are getting sued. I have 3 clients right now, small businesses, that are being sued because their website is not ADA compliant, okay? And that's a whole nother host of issues. So, you know, you need to make sure that, you know, you're just trying to follow some best practices in terms of your website being ADA compliant. And that might be a whole nother workshop with Ronnie, just talking about this. But there are some things you can do. You don't want to make your, you know, your website hard to read, small text, colors with poor contrast, and things like that. So you really want to make sure that you're providing equal access, because I think the stat is up to 20% of people, you know, out on the internet have some sort of disability. So not only should you do it because you're worried about getting sued, you should do it because you want to, and you want to make your website accessible to everyone. So that's a big one now. And I know I'm just kind of scratching the surface on it, but it's important that you really think about that. You want to make sure your website's useful. Does your website do something people need done? You know, can they get what they're looking for? Do you provide the service that they need? Are you providing them with information? You're educating them, right? Can people figure out how to use your website? Is it easy to use, right? Is that navigation easy? You know, there's a book written there. It's called Don't Make Me Think, I believe is the title of the book. And it's all about web usability. And it's basically about, you know, keep things simple. Don't make people have to try to like demystify what's going on with your website because you know you're trying to be clever. You know, make it easy for people to figure out. They come to your website, they're going to look really quick. They want to be able to size it up and understand, okay, I get it. I need to go here. I need to go there. They don't mind clicking. They don't mind scrolling as long as they feel they're going to get to where they need to go. The website needs to be efficient. Okay. Does it load quickly? Does your website load slow? If your website loads slowly, then people aren't going to wait. They're going to click off it and they're going to go somewhere else. There's that loyalty, right? There's no loyalty on the web. So if it takes too long to load, then they're going somewhere else. So does it load quickly, and is it really effortless to kind of navigate around and back and forth, and you know, once you're deep into the site, can you find other pages to the site? Is everything clearly labeled? Really an effortless experience. Very, very important, because once again, you turn people off, they're gone. And of course, you know, do people want what you're offering? Okay. One of the challenges that I've had with some of my clients is they offer like a product or a service that's really unique. And in some cases, there are things that I never really even knew existed. Well, so now it becomes a challenge. Well, how do you let people know that this even exists? Like how do you drive like demand and that top of funnel awareness, like to even get people to get to your website? And that's where I think a lot of like social media and things like that come in, that you really need to educate people to let you know that this product does exist. So using the social media platform like a Facebook, where you can place Facebook ads in a news feed, so that while people are reading their news feed, they happen to see an ad and go, oh, that's a pretty interesting product or service. I never knew that exists. Let me click here and learn more. We call that adjacency advertising, meaning that your ad is adjacent or near like a news feed or content. So people aren't looking for it because they don't know it exists, right? So we would use ads like in Facebook or something like that to make sure that people understood, you know, that this product even exists. So is your website effective? Does it get the job done? Okay. Are you able to get conversions, get people to fill out a form, get people to pick up the phone to call you, get people to engage with your content using Google Analytics? You know, are they spending time going to multiple pages of your website? Are they spending time, you know, in terms of minutes looking at content on your website? Do they return to your website? You know, are you doing a good job getting people engaged and giving them the information? So some of the things we need to do to make sure that our website is user-friendly is really use a set of rules that have already been established in the web. And you guys know a lot of these rules, you just may not know their rules. So what I'm talking about are conventions. And conventions are basically, look at a newspaper, right, is a great example. Without being taught, we learn to read a newspaper. Not the words, the conventions. Large type is usually a headline. The text underneath the photo is a caption. Okay, no one told us that. We just learned that by doing it, right? We just learned that these are called conventions. And when people laid out newspapers, they understood. You know, if you put the caption to the left or the right or above the photo, people may not know it's a caption. Or if the headline is the same size as the body text, well, then they don't know that's the headline, you know? So we use conventions, and conventions are just really sets of standards and rules that already exist in the internet to help make the user experience better. So an example of website conventions, they became conventions because they work. Okay, they're time-tested things that people understand and they work. People like me who are website designers, we kind of fight those conventions a little bit because we want to flex our design muscles. Like we want to like make something unique and more visually appealing. But understanding that we do that, we may not use these conventions, and we may confuse people when they're coming to the website. So we always have to keep these website conventions in mind. And the only time you innovate is when you know you have a better idea or a better way to use a convention. And in most cases, I say there really aren't. So it's really important to adhere to website conventions. And I'm going to give you some examples. So an example of a website convention is your website navigation appearing along the top or running down the left-hand side of a page. Okay, those are conventions. Now, many years ago, people would put their navigation on the right side of the page. Okay, they just thought, oh, it will look good over there. But what happened was sometimes that would get cut off because their screen wasn't displaying the whole website. So you would have to scroll left to right and right to left. So sometimes the navigation would cut off. So they knew if the navigation to the right would be cut off, well, then let's move it over to the left. Okay, so that became a convention. If you notice, most websites have the logo in the upper left-hand corner. Really, it's a lot for the same reason. If you had it in the upper right-hand corner, once again, in the old days, it used to be, it could get cut off. So now the logos, for the most part, are on the left-hand, upper left-hand corner. Sometimes you'll see them centered too. But really, you very rarely see a logo all the way to the right on a website, right? So that's a convention. It's a set of standards that we've developed over time to make users more comfortable so that they understand what's going on. Hyperlinks, like links, like they're underlined, right? So people understand if they see something underlined, and maybe it's blue or it's a different color and it's underlined, well, they know it's a link. No one told them that. They just learned over time by using a website. So if you decide, well, I have a better way of creating a hyperlink, I'm going to do something different. Well, you better make sure it's going to work, because if people don't recognize it as a link, then you're doing them a disservice. So those conventions are very, very important. So things you want to avoid. You don't want a splash page or an intro page. I think very few do that now. It used to be very, very popular. Once again, you're just preventing people from getting to where they want to go. A slow loading page, once again, you're just making it difficult. It's like putting a bunch of garbage like on the sidewalk in front of your business that people have to climb over to try to get to your front door. It's like, you got to remove these barriers. Like my big thing I always say to my clients, when it comes to your website, remove and reduce the friction, right? Remove the friction, make it as easy as possible. Make everything as easy as possible for people, okay? Large blocks of text on the homepage. Search engines might like that. They might like it a little bit, but from a user experience, your homepage should really be kind of like an overview of what you do and who you do it for. And your homepage should divide your audiences so that if you're marketing to different audiences, because you took that time in your planning to understand who it is you're trying to market to, then your website should say, well, if you're a professional, you go here. If you're a homeowner, you go here. Your homepage should divide the audience and send them on their way, right? So the homepage is almost like your table of contents page, right? You might put some featured content there. It certainly should say what you do, right? Very clearly what you do and who you do it for. And, white text on a color background, you got to balance this with the graphic, the graphic design of your website and the practicality. You have to make sure it's high contrast. You don't want a lot of copy, small text in white. Once again, hard to read. And also, once again, Americans with disability could be a problem. Too much flash in music. Flash animation is pretty much outdated. It's pretty much gone because it's not supported on mobile. Music, what you need to bear in mind is if you use music, a lot of times when people are surfing the web and they're looking for a product or a service, they're doing it on company time. Okay, they're at their workstation and they're maybe on their lunch break or they may be on a break, but they just decided, okay, I need to look for that chiropractor near me or whatever. And if you start playing music and the user's not in control of that experience and they don't want to hear that music, then they may just click off the site. So you want the user to feel like they're in total control of the experience. So even like if you have a video, you may want to have a play button that the people have to elect to play that video first. And, the biggest tell about a website are incomplete or outdated pages, right? You see pages that are, it's coming soon, or they have just, a couple pieces of copy. Don't even show that page. It's just letting people know that, I'm not paying attention to this. I'm not even looking at this. So it's very important that, you only put up pages that are complete and have information. So it's really important to take the time to plan. So many people, even if they're using Wix or they're using Squarespace or they're using WordPress, they want to jump right into it. They sign up for their account and they just start jumping into it. And they start, building pages and things like that. When I'm working with a client, we take a lot of time up front to plan, to really put pen to paper and plan. And in some cases, we spend more time planning a website than building a website, okay? We want to really think things through. Who it is we're trying to, who are we talking to? How should this content be arranged? All sorts of different things. How are we going to organize this information to best meet our users' needs? So it really, I find in just about every client I deal with, we hit a pain point with content, okay? Very rarely do I have a client where they say, okay, I have all the pages written out. I have all the copy. I have everything all figured out with all the pages. And now I just need you to figure out how we're going to build a website around what I have to say. That's the right way to do a website. The right way to do a website is to figure out what you have to say first, right? Get all of what you need to say down first, okay? A Word file, put your products, your services, the about you, why us, who are we affiliated with? I know it's not glamorous, and I know you don't see instant gratification when you do that, like building a page in Wix and saying, okay, there's my service page. Wow, there it is. But if you take the time and plan your content first, then you build a website around what you have to say, as opposed to building blank pages and figuring out how to fill them. Okay, because then what you do is now you're struggling. You say, oh, I got this page. Where am I going to find copy? So you end up, are you copying copy from someone else's website? Maybe. And guess what? If you do that, Google will know that. Okay, if it's duplicate content and you lifted it off of someone's website, word for word, Google will know that. Okay, and they'll penalize you for duplicate content. Okay, so sometimes do you go to peer or competing websites and look at their copy? Yes, and you may copy that copy down and rewrite it yourself. Okay, but I cannot stress enough that you got to take the time to really plan it out first, to really get the whole picture down on paper first before you start building pages. Because once you start building the pages, now you're into this, you're working backwards. You're building empty pages and you're trying to fill them. And that's not really what it's about. You should be coming up with what your messaging is, why you, and then build a website around your content. So we talked about this. Important step one, you got to understand who your target audience is. Where do they spend their time? You need to understand that so you can focus your content to speak to their wants and needs. It's not necessarily about what you have to say, right? It's about what you have to speak to someone's needs and wants, okay? You have to really get inside the head of your target audience and deliver and you be the answer to, to their problem. So you got to make sure that your information architecture is really what we're talking about is navigation, right? You want to create a very usable system that's very easy and consistent. And obviously our goal is to the minimal number of clicks to get to a piece of content. So we want to be able to minimize that to, if we can do it in 2 clicks to get to something, all the better. 3 is okay, but if you start going more than that, then people might not go too deep into the site. And we always want to remember, what is the mission or the purpose of this website? What does this website need to do in order for it to be a success? We always want to keep that in mind. And, like, who are our intended audiences? Never lose sight of that. So we want to develop an organizational structure, like a hierarchy of information, okay? So if you offer a bunch of services, let's say you offer like 12 different services, well, that's a lot to put into a drop-down menu, having 12 things come down a drop-down menu. Can we make a subcategory of those 12 services into 4 so that we can kind of break it into a little bit more of an easily digestible amount of information? So we always want to think about how are we going to present this information in a user-friendly format. Some services comprise 80% of your business, well, as others maybe are 5% of your business. Well, so how do we reflect that on a website? Do we want to reflect it? Do we want to give everything equal weight? Or do we want to say, this is what we really do, but we also do this, this, and this? So that's where you're creating a sitemap, almost like a flow chart, like an organizational flow chart of how you're going to present your information. Okay, so it's very important to do this pre-planning. So there are really 3 concepts that require your attention. What does the audience want from you? What do you have to say? And then how do you arrange that content to best meet their needs? Okay, that's really the assignment. So we need to just break those web pages up into clearly defined areas so that people can really understand at a glance how to find what they're looking for. It's super clean, and this is where the balance between form and function come in. Obviously, make whatever's clickable obvious, right? That's those conventions we talked about. So we want a clear, concise mission statement, a value statement. Photographs, okay? Photographs are important. What I would recommend, everyone has access to stock images, okay? They can get stock images, and you'll start to see the same stock images used everywhere. If you can invest a little bit of money in taking some photographs of your own, that are unique, maybe you have a friend that's a photographer, maybe you can just take your iPhone and shoot some nice photos. If you can take your own photos, it just makes the site a little bit more unique and personable. So, and then all the photos need to be captioned, okay? Not only for search engines, but for Americans with disability, okay? You have to caption these photos because people with a screen reader who are visually impaired can't read a photo, right? A photo is just a JPEG. But if we use a caption or what's called an alt tag, then that describes the photo to someone with visual disability. So we want to make sure. FAQs, very, very important. FAQs improve an understanding of information and it reduces demand on your staff, right? So if you can put those frequently asked questions that you constantly get phone calls for, put them up there. And FAQs are super, super important for 0-click searches, okay? And that's what I talked about. Because what happens when people do a search, they ask a question. Where can I find a chiropractor near me? So they ask it in the form of a question. So if you put FAQs on your website that Google reads, and they will display those questions and answers in a Google search page. And I will show you that in week 2, that they'll actually display it. And you've seen them. Like, people may have asked this, and they'll show questions, and you click on them and it shows the answer. That's Google going through your website and getting these FAQs and posting them directly on a Google search page. Website should have a search map, okay? Your site map, okay? Not only does it help users, not so much users, but it helps the search engines. So when Google will come into your website a couple of ways. They'll come in through your home page, right? They may go to a Chamber of Commerce website. I think we have a Chamber of Commerce, Huntington Chamber, I think is on. If your business is listed on a Chamber of Commerce website, Google goes to that Chamber of Commerce website, they see your link to your business. That's gold. That's called a backlink. Then they follow that link to your website, and then they crawl through your website. But they may also crawl through your website using a sitemap. It makes it very easy for the search engines to index all that information. And of course, we talked about the footers down at the very bottom, having links and additional information. So look, it's, marketing your website, you got to make sure you put that URL, your website address, on everything you do, right? Your business cards, your on your signage, your door, your vehicle graphics, everything you do, that website URL should be everywhere. Okay, all your marketing collateral, very, very important. So I just want to touch on navigation real quick. Just navigation gives us something to hold on to, right? It tells us what's inside the site. It also helps us to better understand how to use the website. So consistent navigation allows users to adapt and predict with confidence what's going to happen. Once again, once they start losing confidence and they start clicking on things and like, oh, how do I get back? Like there's not a link to get back to where I'm going. They're going to leave. Okay, so very important, consistent, clear navigation. So we started talking about landing pages, or what are also called lead capture pages. And we use those to convert visitors into leads by completing some sort of conversion or transaction. Maybe we're collecting contact information via some sort of call to action, where they fill out a form in exchange for us providing them with a piece of information, like a tip sheet or a checklist, or the 5 things you need to know about something. It's very important. You can't just ask for someone's email address. You can't just say, subscribe to our newsletter, because they're going to say, why? What's in it for me? Like I'm doing one now for a client of mine. He offers discounts and promos to people who sign up for his newsletter. And they're really good discounts. And he gets a lot of people. I think I just checked this morning. He had 35 people sign up last week to get his email. Okay. He's got over 2,000 people signed up since we've been doing it, because he's really offering something of value in exchange for their contact information. No one's given up their contact information without a fight. You have to give them a reason. Okay. So the landing pages have to have a strong call to action. It's a brief description, really of an offer, and emphasizing the value of the offer. Think of it like as a landing page is like a mini, almost like a website, but it's just strictly about one type of promotion. Okay, it's really, really about one type of thing you're offering, one type of thing. So, and you may have a form on that page for people to fill out and submit. So, if you're advertising on Google, you may link them to go to a landing page because you want them to go exactly to that offer. You don't want them to mess around and go anywhere else. Better user experience, right? So call to actions, they could download something, they could contact you in social media, they could share a like, there could be a learn more, there could be a video, they could watch a video, they could subscribe to your newsletter. So your call to action, quite simply, it's just what you want your visitor to do. So, whether you're trying to increase sales, generate email leads, or just trying to develop a relationship, everyone wants more conversions. So you have to get the dialogue going. And it's very important to think about each page of your website should have some sort of call to action, even if it's nothing more than just, here's our phone number, call us today for a free consultation. That's a call to action, right? So we talk about your website content. Okay, so you really want to, like we talked about before, you got to reduce the noise, make useful content, important content more prominent. I don't know if you've ever noticed this now, but if you're reading news stories now online, they'll put like the top 3 takeaway bullet points right up at the top. So yes, you can get a summary, right? You get a summary of the content right up at the top. Okay, very, very important. They summarize what the important things are so you can get it real quick. And, you could make pages a little bit shorter to reduce the scrolling and break them out into more pages. People they tend to be used to scrolling now, especially on their phone. But get to the point. Don't have a lot of happy talk. Kill the happy talk. No small talk. They're there because they're interested. They came there because they're interested. They're there. Okay, so give them what they're looking for. Okay, so most people scan. Very few people read. They scan. They scan text. They look at it. What's in it for me? So we call it chunking. So we put small passages of information in a smaller amount of text so that people can scan it. Right? It's more concise. It's more of an overview. And then if they want to know more, there's a read more link, and that will take them to another page where they can do a deep dive. Okay, we don't want to overwhelm a user in the beginning. And then once again, we got to kneel before Google. Okay, so much of our website, what we have to do is because of search engines. So we want to make sure our content is search engine friendly. And once again, that speaks to those zero-click searches. The content should contain keywords, and we want to use hyperlinks within your content to link to other pages on your website. So once again, if we're referencing another service on a service page, you should hyperlink it over. So I just want to talk real quick about stock photography. I mentioned it before. Okay, Google Images is not a source of photos for your website. Okay, you can get in a lot of trouble. Okay, unless you have permission to use a photo. Okay, do not go to Google Images and search for an image and pull it down and say, I'll use this on my website. You do not have permission to use it. Okay, you could get sued. Okay, some of these images have tagging code in them, and the stock photography houses, they go just like Google. They go around the internet and they look for these tags. And I had a client that got sued $50,000 because they used unauthorized photos, okay, in a blog, okay, and they got sued. Okay, so you must make sure you're sourcing your photos, and that's why I said take your own photos if you can. But there are a ton of places out there that offer royalty-free. That's, you pay a fee and you can use it for a variety of purposes, like Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, iStock, and there's even some free ones out there. But make sure you're sourcing these correctly. So in addition to royalty-free, you have what's called rights managed, and those are, you pay a fee for a very specific one-time use for a photo. And I can't really see people using that too much. It's usually they use royalty-free, where they have permission to use it for, you know, your website and your brochure. So be very careful sourcing your website photos. This is where we're talking about that balance of form and function. Okay, the design versus how your website works. It's very important you get this balance right. Okay, you have to make sure, and some of the common mistakes that businesses make is they focus too much on the form or the style and less on the function or the substance of a website. Now, I'm a website designer, and I'm telling you, you have to focus on the function and make sure that it functions better. And then when you have the functionality, then you can worry about more the style and things like that. And when you're on a smartphone, there's just about no style. It's about all function. So websites now are responsive design. That means they work on a mobile or a desktop. Just about all new websites are that way. I looked at a couple websites people sent me from the survey. There are a couple there that are not mobile friendly. That is, Google will penalize you if your website's not mobile friendly. They will not serve up your website in the results on a mobile search. And that means you kind of have to adapt some of the things you do for this mobile technology, or what we call mobile first. Okay, and I want to just show you an example, like of the Starbucks. So Starbucks, their original logo was a little bit more intricate and involved. And then over time, like in the middle, they evolved a little bit more, where they have the text above and below the image. And now, all the way to the right, they don't even have the words in it. So if you go to the Starbucks website, and we will in a second, they don't even have the word Starbucks in there, because they built their website for mobile first, and they changed and tweaked their logo to work on mobile. And this is, once again, this struggle with form and function. People say, well, that's my logo, and I was always told never change my logo. And that is a very valid point. But if people can't read your logo, the function, right? They can't read it because it's way too intricate, and I can't read it on a phone, then what good is the form if it doesn't function, right? So if your logo is way too intricate, it's vertical when it really needs to be horizontal, no one's going to see it. So the design of your site has to offer relief to the eye. You have to strike a balance between text and graphics. And I just want to go over some success criteria here. You always want to make sure that you have top of mind awareness in the marketplace. So you got to make sure that you're using keywords and keyword focus. So when someone's doing a search, you're coming up as the authority in what you do. Your content is relevant, informative, addresses the need of the visitor. Information is easy to read and find. You want to increase unique visitor traffic to your website. That's where that Google Analytics comes in. You also want to reduce the demand on your staff. Okay, that's where if you put the information on your website, people can read about it. For example, you're a lawyer, okay? And when people go to a lawyer, they're stressed out. They don't know what to expect when they go to a lawyer. Well, maybe you should put something on your website. Here's what's going to happen in the first meeting. Here's what to expect. So people can look at it and say, oh, or you're a doctor. Oh, okay, here are the forms. I can fill this out ahead of time. If you let them know what's going to happen and make it easier. You want to be connected to other web properties and have them connected to you, even more importantly. And of course, you want more business. So really, those are your goals. So I'm going to touch on really quick the do-it-yourself websites. So WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Shopify. These are all kind of what they call CMS or do-it-yourself website. They're basically templates that you can build web pages and add content and add pages and manage the content of your site. So the CMS or the content management system allows you to add, edit, and delete. So there are some benefits to those. Obviously, it saves you money. It's template driven, and they use plugins or add-ons to add additional functionality, like a calendar or a shopping cart or things like that. It allows you to archive content that you could turn it off and turn it back on if it's seasonal. And obviously you manage all of that through your web browser. So it's very, very easy to do. I will tell you that, I do a lot of WordPress websites, and sometimes we still struggle with getting WordPress to do the things we want it to do. And we work on it every day, and I have developers. So, sometimes it can become difficult. And that's why, some of the benefits of hiring someone that knows what they're doing is it can save you a lot of time and focus on your core. So for example, I talked about all your pre-planning. Like, to me, if you're a really small business, I would like you to spend the bulk of your time planning out why you're unique, why what you do is different than everyone else, why you're better, why you're different. And here it is what you offer. Like, that's where you should be focusing your time. And whether you go and you put that in on the free Google My Business site or Wix site, that's okay. Or you hire me and I just go and put it all in. But, I don't want you to get hung up so much on the technology. They all kind of do the same thing, but there are a couple of key differences. So for example, I'll just compare Wix to WordPress real quick. So Wix is not as widely used as WordPress. WordPress is the most widely used web platform in the world. 32.5% of all websites are WordPress. So that's huge. So Wix, their basic website builder is free. They have a simple drag and drop interface. They have templates, they have apps, and they offer e-commerce. WordPress, their software is free. They use a visual editor to help you write and organize your content. They have free templates, what they call themes, and they have plugins, which are like these things that add functionality. And it's also very popular on e-commerce sites. The biggest difference between like Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify and WordPress are WordPress is not dependent on any hosting platform. You can host a WordPress site in GoDaddy, or you could host it on HostGator, or you could host it pretty much anywhere. But Wix, Squarespace, and like Shopify, you have to, it's hosted with them. They own it. So you could never move your site from them. Okay. You are beholden to them. Okay. So it's very, very, you can't move your site. So I just want to finish it really quick. I want to emphasize that the website's a billboard.